Hello and welcome to Designer by Designer, which is IALD's new series of one-on-one interviews with and by lighting designers around the world. My name is Stefan Horn and I'm the IALD Germany chapter coordinator, and I'm joined by Melanie Collot. And we are excited to welcome you to the fourth interview in this series with Gerd Pfarré, fellow IALD from the IALD Germany, and Sarah Richter, associate IALD from the IALD Washington, DC. Before we begin, we would like to thank our sponsors. The Designer by Designer series is made possible through the generous support of our platinum level sponsors, who are Axis Lighting, Cooper Lighting, Lutron Electronics, and Lumenpulse. Our gold level sponsors, including Erco Lighting, and our silver level sponsors. Today's interview is being broadcast on Zoom and Facebook Live and is being recorded and will be available later to view on YouTube. Gerd and Sarah will be answering questions at the end of the interview. So if you are watching with us on Zoom, please use the question and answer option throughout the interview. They will come back to your questions later. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Gerd Pfarré and Sarah Richter and the fourth interview of IALD's Designer by Designer.
Yeah, good morning, good evening, wherever you are and watching us. Sarah, how are you?
Doing great.
You're great. You just relax.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so relaxed. I am ready to dive into these questions with you, Gerd.
Okay. Well, for me, it's rather new. I've been interviewed, but I don't know if I'm a good interviewer. But I will start with some warm-up questions. You know, as you know how it works. There are just two words, and you will just answer quickly. What's your teamwork or solo?
Teamwork.
Cold or warm?
Okay, this one's a little tricky. I said warm days with cool nights.
Wine or beer?
I don't discriminate, but I'm definitely a beer fan.
Okay, well, it's okay. City or country?
Country.
White or color?
White.
Light or shade?
Light.
Rock or jazz?
Rock, but my dad would be bummed that I didn't say jazz.
Is he listening?
Maybe he is. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Mountain or ocean?
Definitely ocean.
Good. Interesting. So here are the questions. Where are you from? Where are you based? You're in the US, where? In Washington?
Yep, so I'm part of the ILD DC, but I actually live in Annapolis, Maryland, originally from New Jersey, and I came down to DC for my architecture schooling.
Okay, great. So just hopping into your work or into your practice about your process, how do you approach a lighting design project?
So I've had some really amazing mentors that taught me not to go right to the computer, right? So I love to do hand drawing or sketching, but one of the big things that I really like to do is first listen to the client, listen to the project and how that, you know, what are they saying, what are they not saying? And then from that kind of listening and asking questions, I start to draw different details, or maybe it's a kind of concept sketch with how you go through the space, maybe moments for stopping and reflecting, or areas that, you know, are more transition in nature. But overall, it's really a listen, draw, discuss, and then document process. The documentation process, as we've all kind of been under the gun, I feel like that has gotten so truncated, the amount of time to actually create the real drawings to be able to put things into practice. So we've been spending a lot of time on that documentation process to make sure that as we're reviewing them, that we're also drawing and making sure that things are going to work, working through details and things like that. So that's typically how I approach a project from those kind of 4 buckets.
Mm-hmm. So the dialogue is important for you instead of, or more important for you instead of pushing the client in any direction you would like to go.
Yeah, I think I've been having this conversation a lot because I think I'm a pretty casual person in terms of professionalism. I like to kind of get down to their level and understand how, what's important to them. We definitely check our ego at the door. We're not that, kind of group. And so really being able to listen and have a conversation and keep checking in with them so that, we're listening in the beginning, but we're also listening as, budget concerns come up. And listening when they're moving into the project and something might not be right. So,
well, I found that clients change pretty often when they are involved in a construction project, and let's say in a house, in a residential project, for instance, that as more money they have to spend, as more difficult the situation can get.
Yes.
As more delicate it can be, what you do and what you speak about.
Absolutely, because when you're being interviewed for a project, you can have all the bells and whistles and you're saying all the right things. But I think the important thing is, as you're, collaborating and who your team is, that as the project goes on, if there are issues and you need to solve problems, you want to be part of that process that, comes up with a solution rather than creating problems. So, so definitely that process is carried throughout, but that's a good point. It's a really good point.
Next question. What did you want to do? What did you want to be when you grew up?
This is a funny one. I have always, and maybe there are other people out there that were sort of like me, but I'm half Swedish, half German. We grew up going to IKEA all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I always was interested in space and moving things around. My mom jokes that I was left home alone one summer and took our family room into my own hands, painted one wall red and the rest of the walls white, and got all of our family photos and hung them on the wall, moved the couch around, moved the TV around. She came home and it looked like a completely different space after my 1 week of soccer camp, where I spent every afternoon moving.
Nice surprise.
So yes, it was a surprise. I think she appreciated it, but yeah, I've always wanted to be in some kind of a design field. I actually went to architecture school and kind of thought that was going to be my path. But really just loved being in a designed environment where, you can affect space and use different textures and color. So yeah, besides that, I think I wanted to be Mia Hamm when I was much younger. I really wanted to be a professional soccer player.
Yeah.
So obviously that didn't work out. So here we are.
Well, yeah, we had all of us. We had those dreams, and sometimes it's not working. It's not working out,
Yeah.
But the first experience with light, what was that?
So my first experience with light that I actually think that happens all the time to me now is when I'm out on our sailboat. There's something about being on the water, and this is mostly obviously a moment with daylight. But when you're on a sailboat and you are either on the windward side where you're looking at the sail, or you're on the leeward side, there's an intense moment of brightness. And then when you're in the underside of the sail, you're in shade. And it always was interesting to me to be on something. Hopefully there's wind, so you're moving. But as you're, underway on a sailboat, that moment of tacking back and forth and that transition that happens between being, bathed in light and then being in shadow, and the different temperature that correlates with. And of course, I feel like now that, we work during the day, if you can get out on the boat at, 4:30 in the summer and you start to see the sunset, there's really nothing more beautiful than that on the water.
Yeah, this is a very basic experience, because I know I know pretty good what you are talking about, because I love the water too. On being on water, being in the water, and being underwater.
Yes. Yes.
So this is all, especially if we speak about temperature, light, shadow. This is a very strong, or can be a very strong and very relaxing experience.
Absolutely, especially with the sounds.
Yeah.
You know, it actually, it's a very interesting point you make, Gerd, about when you're on, you know, I said ocean versus mountain. I love kind of all forms of water, but there is a difference between being underwater, being on top of the water, and then looking out onto water, right? The way that you kind of interact with it. And I have an 18-month-old daughter. We took her out sailing last summer. So she was about 6 to 9 months old. And we must have been out for the first 20 minutes. And all of a sudden she is passed out. You know, she just fell asleep because the rocking of the, you know, of the boat and hearing that lapping. It's a very submersive experience. But I would say that's probably one of my first experiences with light that is recurring. And it's a very similar experience that, you know, that I absolutely love. So.
Yeah, and it has this dynamic, because it's never the same. You know, the light, the movement of the water, your own movement, it's never the same. You're always in a new situation and that's very, I appreciate that very much too. I would also have said ocean.
Yeah. Do you sail, or do you?
No, but I used to do scuba diving, and I'm as often as I can. I'm on the shore.
Yeah,
and also on the boat if I can. No doubt. But Munich is surrounded by mountains, but we have some very good lakes to swim.
Yeah,
that's what I like to do in summer.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe I should come and join you. That'd be fun. Or you could come here. I'll take you sailing.
Okay. So how did you decide? Well, how did you decide to become a lighting designer? Well, there was an initial moment, or?
I absolutely fell into it, and I went to Catholic University for my BS in architecture. And then went to Virginia Tech as a campus in Old Town Alexandria called the Washington Alexandria Center. And a wonderful experience. 2 years I spent there getting my thesis, and there was both landscape architecture students, architects. There's some people from Mendoza, Argentina, just a really multicultural experience. Loved it, absolutely loved it. And I was working at Trader Joe's the first year that I was in graduate school. And I said to myself, you know, I've been really burnt out by architecture internships, because that's kind of, you know, you go to architecture school, you get an internship, then you go for your licensing exams. And I just wasn't sure that was the right path for me. So I decided to go to sort of quit my time at Trader Joe's, although I met some really interesting people, which I'm sure people in the States who know Trader Joe's, it's a very lively experience, all different ages, groups, taught me a lot about teamwork, and also conversational, because you're bagging groceries at the same time that you're, you know, trying to ring them up and things like that. And so I wanted to be a TA at the college that I was at, and they didn't have any more TA positions. So when I walked into the front office, they said, oh, there's a student that used to go here that works for a lighting design firm, and she's actually moving. And so if you would, you know, it might be a good opportunity if you wanted to go and do an interview. And that was with CM Kling and Associates. And so I met with David Gatton and Andrea Hart-Rampt. And I remember it so clearly because
Andrea was still there at the time.
Yep. I was in like a very architectural outfit, you know, wearing black like I am now, but, you know, black dress with heels. And I walked in, had a great conversation with the two of them. They're wonderful. And they said, okay, well, let's go upstairs and we'll, introduce you to Candy Kling. And I went upstairs with them, and Candy was like, Sarah, you got to see this. She was just so lively and fun, and, no holds bar. And she was like, so do you want to work here? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I would love to. I'd love to kind of experience, this other part of architecture that really they don't teach you anything about in architecture school. So lighting was always kind of an interesting medium. And so I met with Candy, and she was like, okay, X amount of dollars, does that work? And I was like, please, yes, get me out of Trader Joe's. It sounds good. And as I was leaving, she was like, okay, well, you're going to sit here with me in the desk right there. I still work on trace paper, and, we'll just see how it goes. And as I walked out, she was like, and do me a favor, don't ever wear that dress again. You could be as casual and as comfortable as you want to be, but we don't do that here.
So was that a job like a trainee, or did they hire you?
It was
or
was it an
internship?
internship. It was let's see, it was during the school year. So I worked Monday through Friday, I believe. So 5 days a week in the mornings, because then I would go to school in the afternoon.
Okay.
I did that, I think it was 2012 and 2013. And then started there full time. For 7 or 8 years. I was there.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful experience. Absolutely wonderful.
Good.
Yeah.
Any other place or any other country, city where you would like to work?
So I've been, when I studied abroad as an architecture student, lived in Rome for a semester, absolutely fell in love with Italy. And when I was growing up, we actually had a Swedish exchange student who was in high school at the time. And so when I was studying abroad, I reached out to her and went to Sweden for a week, had a fantastic time, and was just so, I couldn't believe, it seemed to me like they were farther along in architecture and design, or at least it was so much more integrated in who they were and what they did and just their everyday life, that there was something about Sweden and those kind of Norwegian countries that really intrigued me. So if there was somewhere where I, if I wanted to pick up and move to, it would probably be over there.
Well, there's one thing for sure is you can have lots of darkness.
We went in February, Gerd, and it was unreal. We actually went to the city where my grandmother, grew up, and I don't know, is it 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. was sun, and the rest of the time was dark and cold.
Well, I experienced also, I've been in when it was St. Petersburg, when it was still called Leningrad in 89, was it 89? Yeah. And we left the restaurant after dinner at around midnight, and it was light.
Incredible.
It was light. There was it's a completely strange experience, and then you had to cross bridges because they moved the bridges up at night in order to make boats able to pass. So, and if you are not in your district where you stay, you have to wait until the next morning.
Oh my goodness, really? Wow.
But all this happened just like that in a complete daylit situation at midnight. It was very special also. I won't forget.
And what was so amazing to me about Sweden is that they really embraced that darkness. I think Higgy and a lot of those sort of words have become trendy here, but even though there's darkness, the small candles and the cool, lantern effects, everybody still gathers around light, which I think is really.
And they love the warm white, and they love a good lampshades, and they do not close the windows with curtains that others can see what the beautiful interior lighting situation they have.
Yeah.
This is all over the countries up there. That's also in Holland. I've been there recently, 2 weeks ago, and found out again that there is a very liberal way to show or to enable people to look into your space.
Yeah.
You know, pedestrians, you can just look into one's living room. And of course, this is a Protestant background. That's another story in Holland. But I like that, you know, because you see all the fixtures they have, centerpiece, or they put those table lamps in the window. Yeah, well, 2 of them, and if you have 2 windows, they have 4 of them. And it's a very special way to handle lighting, and they are very sensible without, in many cases, without the need of a lighting designer, which is
it's almost inherent,
obvious,
right? Yeah, it's something that they grew up with, and so that sense of multiple layers of light, you know, making a space feel comfortable. And at certain times, you know, we don't have this light on, but you know, it's, you know, dark out and we're having a nice meal, and so let's put out this, you know, sort of arrangement. It's also an interesting conversation about, you know, participation, right? So people on the street, if it's dark outside, you can see inside. And so there's a little bit of people watching that happens. It's kind of embracing that lifestyle.
Yeah, it's another feeling of a community, of being a part of a community, instead of having, you know, locked up facade like in other places. I mean, where you do not have any contact, and people in the interiors, in the houses, do not want to have any contact with the outside also. I mean, there are traditions like this. If you look to Northern Africa, for instance, to Morocco, they live all inside. There's nothing, you know.
Right.
Do you have a narrow street, and you have a large door, and behind this door is the life, and nobody knows what's going on there? No, it's completely different.
Very inwardly focused, and because everybody, you know, to your point, is open and you can see in, maybe it causes people to not look in as much, right? So whereas today, if you walk through the neighborhood and there's one house that always has their windows, you know, no shades drawn or whatever, you're more inclined to maybe look in there. Whereas if everybody had it, it wouldn't be such a strange occurrence. So it is interesting.
Well, it's, of course, it's psychologically an interesting theme, because I mean, you would think, or you could think, that it's like open doors for a voyeur, or for, you know, but those people don't think like that. And the people out, the pedestrians that are walking along there, neither do or think like that. No, it's a matter, of course, of the quality of this society you are in, or the quality of the community that has been created, sometimes over centuries. You know, it's interesting. It's how people treat and manage light just out of themselves is a very interesting topic, I think. But let me ask you one more question, because I have been advised not to talk too much. Has becoming a lighting designer impacted your life in a meaningful way?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the lighting design community for me has been extremely welcoming. Going to the IALD, you know, going to the Enlighten Americas conferences, and having that opportunity with my previous employer was amazing. Being able to meet other people that are from all different backgrounds, but kind of like-minded, in the sense of everybody has this great appreciation for light. I think that was fantastic. And has, you know, I sort of take the knowledge from those conferences and from our lighting design community, and being able to kind of share what I've learned and what we know as lighting designers with, you know, a larger community of people, architects, interior designers, homeowners, you know, everybody. Somebody said this to me once, that people notice bad lighting. They don't notice good lighting, because good lighting feels great, you know, and you usually can't put your finger on it. But we've all been to a restaurant.
You're just feeling good.
Exactly. exactly.
Yeah.
You can have terrible food, but the ambiance is great, right? But having good food with not a good, a good ambiance and experience is something quite different. So yeah, it's been extremely meaningful for me, and really just trying to share, and those conversations that we were talking about before, like throughout the process, talking about lighting and how it's evolving throughout the design and construction process with different people too. Hopefully folks that work with me get the sense that it's not educational from like, you don't know enough, but just like informative, like they start to notice, things about their space that they're now in, but also other spaces that they go to. So,
yeah, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
So this is a question. I mean, what inspires you? What drives you? I mean, really?
Yeah.
Apart from the ocean.
Well, and we've all needed to feel inspired the last couple of years. And so I think I've looked at this differently throughout, as a lighting designer, but just as a designer of space. I definitely look to nature as inspirational. I think my drive for lighting design has been really focused on my love of architecture and design and just creating space. Creating tree forts as a kid and being inside something and being outside something was always very intriguing and very informative. And so that being able to create a sense of place is that inspiring? Yes. Because there's so many different qualities that go into that based on, who you're designing it for, or are you designing it for many people? So I think that sort of carrot that's dangled in front of you of designing a place that people want to enjoy and stay in is something that really drives me.
Good.
And family, and my family, right? That's always inspirational.
Of course.
Is being able to kind of design, another thing over the last 3 years is finding inspiration, but also understanding like when to maybe turn off work and turn on something else. And so that balance, kids have no rhyme or reason. They want you and they want you now. So I think that's been really interesting to juggle too.
And they want all.
Yeah. And everything, mama. But being able to share lighting with them as well, in creating a business has been really interesting too, to share why are you setting out to do something like this? What is your inspiration and vision for that? So that's been inspirational too, is being able to try and share that.
I prepared some sentences. I would like you to complete. Very, very simple, very quick. My younger self should have known that.
Should have known, well, there are many ways this could go. Hopefully my mom and dad are not watching, right? The design field is not a linear thing. It's meandering and wandering, and you never go so far down a road that you can't change your path.
Good. Next. If I could not be creative, I would.
I could not be creative. I would probably be at a total loss. Honestly, I would be at a total loss. I mean, you can kind of see the drawing stuff behind me. I'd have to throw all that out.
Okay, next. Lighting designers are
creative, essential to design and space. Lighting designers are
nice people.
Nice people all over the world. Yeah. But especially in Germany.
If I wouldn't live here, I would like to work in.
I think Italy or Sweden. Sure.
You already answered that. Okay. Sarah, my last question to you is, what is definitely the best thing about your job?
the best thing about the lighting design life that I've tried to create for myself, I think, is being able to help others. I have clients now that are, young and interested in tech, and I have clients that are older and are trying to build something that is a legacy, for future generations that they want to have memories in. So I think that's what I love so much about lighting design, is that you have your hands in so many different projects. Nothing is the same. So every day is kind of new and challenging and interesting. So yeah, and that's all dependent too on like what opportunities you're open to as well, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So that's something that I've definitely been learning over the past couple of years too. So yeah.
Well, thank you. We will take questions from the audience now. Actually, I don't know how to manage that. Is there a Q&A in this? Yeah. Let's hang on a little. If there is something coming up. But I can ask you one more question I would be interested in. If you want to hire somebody, what is the most important skill?
I think the most important skill, I think, is just like a gut check when you're talking with somebody. So I think I think that we have a pretty good judge of character. And I've made the switch of like, oh my gosh, we are super busy, so we need to get somebody kind of in the door to help with this work. But then you start to realize that that is something that could be waning. The work could be less. And if the work is less, are you still going to enjoy that person working on the team? So yeah, I think when it comes to hiring, it's a question of, do you see yourself long-term with, with that person and building something together, as a collaborative group. So.
Good, thank you. Yeah. Well, I have questions popping in here. How important is darkness for a lighting designer? What a question.
Ooh, that's a good one.
This comes out from the dark.
Yeah, darkness is very interesting. And I think there's been such a conversation with architects and interior designers of, it has to be evenly lit. Clients want to make sure that it is a bright, evenly lit space. And I've kind of been trying to change that dialogue a little bit and saying like, why don't we embrace shadow a little bit? Why don't we embrace those textures so that everything is not the same? And that kind of goes to that layered lighting approach, I think, as well, of, not all the lighting shouldn't be coming from above, even though it is a workplace, or, a kitchen of function. So how can we sort of take that back as a layered lighting approach? But I like to think too, if there wasn't darkness, they probably wouldn't need a lighting designer, right?
Actually, that's the point. So
it's completely essential. That's a good question. That's a very good
I was many years ago. There was a peer. I don't know. I don't remember who it was, but telling me that in the beginning there was nothing. Yeah. Then God came and said, "Let there be light." Afterwards, there was still nothing, but you could see it. Next question is coming in here. What is the best and the worst experience with light you had so far? Yeah. This is a difficult question.
What is the best and the worst experience with light you've had so far? I would say, well, isn't that interesting? It kind of goes back to our conversation about the water, right? Because we've had good and bad experiences with daylight. Good question, Julia.
If you're in a fog in the middle of nowhere, when you cannot you don't have orientation anymore.
Right.
Oh,
right. And you could also chalk that up to, like, if you're skiing and it's winter time and you're taking that last run on the mountain. And you know, you're trying to make your way down. You can't really see if there's ice or if there's patches. It's very disorienting. And I know we keep coming back to the outside, but in terms of interiors, I sort of go back to those like haunted houses as a young kid of like, you know, kind of going through those around Halloween time.
Yeah, but I mean, that concerning electric light, I would have a long list of bad moments I have seen in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully ones that weren't your designs. Right?
Yeah. Sarah, we reached the moment where I think we have to pass over to, I don't know whom, Jessica?
Yeah, thank you. I'm here to just tell you to be sure to join us again for Designer by Designer on April 7th, when Sarah will be interviewing Luciana Aranis from the IALD Alpine chapter. I'm very excited to hear those two talk design. Registration to join us on Zoom will be open soon. And of course, you can always watch this again on Facebook Live or rewatching any of the Designer by Designer interviews on all of the IALD video content on the IALD YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe to that so that you don't miss these. Thank you again for both of you for a great conversation.
Thank you, Gerd.
Stay tuned.
That's right. Have a good week, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
Bye, Gerd.
Bye-bye.